Good evening. I'd like to call the Lincoln Way Community High School District 210, June 25th, 2024 Board of Education regular meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. Davis, can you please call the roll?
Dana Berthold.
Here.
Catherine Johnson.
Here.
Joseph Kostick.
Here.
Richard Lacine.
Here.
Caitlin Olenek.
Here.
Deidre Stokes.
Here.
Aaron Janik.
Here. All right, we have nobody signed up for public comment this evening, so with that, we'll jump into the presentation of the fiscal year 2025 preliminary budget.
Good evening, everybody. Under presentations, you have a slide deck, and that first file is called presentation, and the second one is called the budget book. So I'm going to walk through the presentation here tonight. I'm going to try one more time to see if I can connect. Perfect. Okay. So if you have any questions on this presentation, I will try to just give you a high level of where I think we're looking for fiscal year 25. Please feel free to interject with any questions you might have. If on your devices you want to pull up the budget book, if there's anything you see that you want to ask a question about, please let me know. And when I get done with the slides, I will be happy to dig into that. As you know, every June we present a preliminary version of the budget. No action is required here this evening. We spend the spring looking at master scheduling, taking a look at where we think property tax revenues are going to be, medical insurance, as I'll speak to in a minute. I think we've corrected for our biggest revenue buckets, biggest expense buckets, and we put together a preliminary budget. Over the summer, we then refine it. There are several pieces of information that we do not yet know at this time of the year. And so we are still finalizing our staffing and filling the last few personnel moves. We have not received any allocations for evidence-based funding yet, for example, or CPPRT in terms of the Illinois Department of Revenue. So there are a lot of moving targets that we don't yet know. Over the summer, we'll work to refine those. As you'll see here, this is a pretty conservative budget. Very, very small surplus. That's not where we're going to land, and I'll speak to that. But when we come back in August, that will be a pretty final form of the budget. That's the version that gets placed on display. Make a couple minor modifications maybe before September, and that's when we will request adoption. In terms of an overall budget summary, I'll start with this. Projecting an all funds surplus of about $31,000, and as you can look across the different funds, Fund 10, Fund 20, 30, 40, etc., there are surpluses planned for in every single operating fund. At this point last year, we had a deficit in the transportation fund, if you will remember, with Summit Hill leaving Lincoln Way Transportation, and so that is corrected for. You will see a deficit in the capital projects fund. That is of no concern. That is simply when the contractors give us pay apps and invoices for all of the different projects you all have already approved. So that's a non-operating fund for a reason. Debt service is about only $8,000, and you can see on the far right the tort liability fund is a net zero. That is intentional. That's because I'm taking all of our investment income right now and I'm budgeting for that revenue to go into other funds where I believe we need it most. Between now and August, if anything changes in these funds, that's a lever for me to be able to move some of those monies and budget them into Fund 30 or 80 if I need to make sure that a surplus is there. For perspective, the last 2 budget years, the all funds budget that includes debt service and capital improvements has been a deficit. And so I already feel like we're in very good shape here by coming back into the black in terms of bonds and capital projects. This also, if you look at transfers out under Fund 20, includes a $2.5 million pre-funding for capital projects. I do expect that number to increase between now and August, but that's the number that I have placed in here for right now. In terms of comparison, on the agenda later tonight is the adoption of the amended FY 2024 budget. I will tell you the amended budget is coming in fairly accurate. I feel really good about where we landed. Salaries are at 99.8, 99.9% of where we anticipated them to be. Benefits at a little bit lower. When you combine salaries and benefits, we're about 99.5%. So our method is working. I feel good about where we're going to put salaries for FY25. I'll walk through these buckets real quick. Local revenues, I'm anticipating being up 3%. Our tax revenue is no longer benefiting from 5% inflation. It's down to 3.4%. So that's something that we have to factor in for calendar year 2025. State revenues, evidence-based funding, as I mentioned before, we've been a Tier 1 district. I think Dr. Tingley's mentioned this in past meetings. We're a Tier 1 district. We've seen some nice increases. We're right on that cusp of Tier 2. And then federal, I do want to make a note here. Federal revenue is down substantially. That is because we no longer have ESSER revenue reimbursements coming through. That is the driving force there. So that it is not of concern, because you will see some of the expense buckets later down on this slide also decreasing, and that's because we're not spending in the same way. I mentioned for salaries, this is inclusive of any sort of FTE changes and salary changes that we've built into master scheduling and our different departments, as well as the new CBA for the teachers. Benefits is up a couple percent. I feel really good about where we are with medical insurance right now. We have leveled that off, and we're going to work with our new partner, Alliant, to control cost even more. Professional services and supplies, actually, I'll just go down three or four of them. Services, supplies, and capital outlay, you'll see, are all down. Capital outlay most of all. This is a combination of four different things. One, we have not budgeted any large-scale expenses in the way we had to for Lockport using Lincoln Way North. So that's one change. Two are the expenses for ESSER. We are no longer receiving the revenue because we're also not spending. The ESSER grant is expiring. Three, especially under services, we transitioned a year ago, if you will remember, to GSF as our new cleaning partner from ABM. Because of some delayed invoicing from ABM, we have actually paid additional invoices, more than 12 months. We paid about 13 and a half months worth of service this fiscal year. And so when you get rid of that kind of big expense and you just return to a normal one per month sort of billing, that draws down where FY25 is going to sit, which is a good thing for the upcoming budget. And then some smaller pieces, you can see that non-capital equipment is up. That's nothing of note. It's just supplies versus non-capital equipment and shifting some of those buckets based on the items we're purchasing. So overall, conservatively, I will say revenue up 2.38%, expenses up 3.41%.
Can I jump in real quick with a question? The contingency, I know we don't have anything on here. That was when we went through COVID, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
We were budgeting about $500,000 a year.
Yes, sir.
No one knew what was going to happen. Do we need to keep that on there going forward?
No, I can
No.
remove that line.
Just,
Yep, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
But just for sake of conversation and to your comment, there is no large contingency bucket planned, and I think we're trying to be really refined in each of our departments and in each area of the budget. I feel confident about that. All right, so if you break apart the revenues, local property taxes, I anticipate about $86 million for fiscal year 25, as you can see on the top right. I will tell you that we have another distribution happening in 2 days. So we will know exactly what we will get to close this fiscal year, and that number's either going to go, I'm guessing, substantially up or substantially down just based on the timing. It's not a problem, but that $86 million is what I have in for now. Local other, one of the things we noticed this fiscal year 24 was CPPRT revenue through Pritzker's budget went down about 25%. That is notable money, and so we might see, I was hoping it would remain flat. His budget went up, but they've changed the formula, giving more to municipalities and less to us. And so we've been told school districts may see another 25% decline, which would equate to a few $100,000 there. So I'm trying to be conservative on that. I'll have more in August. EBF, we saw a substantial increase this year through evidence-based funding, and that is now a hold harmless, which is good for us. We will not get less than we got before. And so I built just a modest increase there. State monies, transportation, other categorical grants I've held fairly flat, and then that federal revenue, as I mentioned, lower than in fiscal year 24 because of ESSER. About $69 million planned in salaries. Dues and tuition, I did want to make a note on the far right, $5.6 million there. That's a combination of District 843, private facility tuition. We've already been working to refine some of those numbers. Laura and I met earlier today. It's very student dependent, but we've already got some changes. I did not want to amend this presentation here tonight because it was already done, but we just reduced that as well. So overall, and I know that's small, feel free, I think you should be able to zoom into the budget book on your device if it's easier to see. But what I have planned is that $2.5 million capital transfer and surpluses in each of the operating funds. Where that leaves us is at a 31% fund balance if all came to fruition here. And so the message I want you guys to know is that what we're doing is we're working in each of our departments. Between now and August, we know we have further refinement to do. I would rather show you something I believe is conservative because we are really, really close to where we need to be and we have some room for improvement. And so by the time we come back to August, we'll have made those adjustments. We'll know where tax revenues come in. We know where our investment, what funds I'll place that into from the investment income, and we'll be sure that we're at or above the 33% fund balance. What I'm hoping is that when I do that and I meet all of those other requirements, I can come back and have a higher number in that pre-funding for our capital projects. Chuck and I met with Brian Scully from DLA this morning, and we are interested in meeting in July and then having a fairly refined plan for what next summer's work is going to be. DLA has said that they would really like to get out in front of any kind of lead times, and supply chain has settled some. But we know what a lot of those buckets are. We just need to prioritize based on this budget. So where this would leave us is, as you can see on this slide, I have fund balances. One of the pieces I believe I mentioned last year, not only do I try to take a look at our overall operating fund balance and make sure that we get that up and above 33%, but I do look and balance between each of the operating funds. And so it was okay this past year for transportation to absorb that deficit. We had an operating surplus. It was fine. We've now right-sized transportation, but as you can see here, transportation still remains higher. IMRF is sufficient in terms of its fund balance. And so when I do the tax levy and I bring that to you in the fall, I might put less into those funds and I might put more into education and into O&M. And so that's some of the strategizing that I need to do to make sure that we stay balanced in all of these to reduce any kind of interfund loans. Facility management, I mentioned Mr. Scully and DLA. Chuck and I are going through a refinement and updating of our capital improvements plan. We hope to have that built into a 5-cast, which I hope to present at some point this fall. We've got balanced budgets. Our fund balances are doing well. We've gotten a lot accomplished this year, and so what I'd like to do is now, with inflation slowing a little bit, bring back in October, November, sometime this fall, a new 5-year forecast for all of you. That's all I have for this evening in terms of the preliminary. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mike?
Let's take a look at it later in August.
All right, thank you. We'll take, like Joe said, another look in a couple months, and hopefully you have good news to report then too. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, guys.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We have items D1 through D6. If I can entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none. Michelle, can you open the vote if you're there?
Voting is open.
Yeah. All right, it works. Yep.
The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
Next up, we have the presentation of invoices for May 17th, 2024 through June 20th, 2024.
Motion to approve invoices in the amount of $3,818,629.91.
Do we have a second? Any questions on the invoices? The only question I would have, Mike, is the May medical and dental claims, about just under 1.2 million. So we have a good handle on those now. Is that about where we're going to be, you think, or?
No, I think we're going to be lower.
Lower, okay.
Yep. So we had 3 or 4 months before that were significantly lower. That spike actually caused me to go back and look at the books, make sure my amended budget was okay. We are actually still trending well fiscal year to date. We're fine. And so that you're going to have some high months, you're going to have some low months, but I project we're going to end okay. And I do think year over year, heading into 25, we're going to be fine.
All right, any other questions on the invoices?
I think I read the wrong one.
I did?
No, I did. Did I say 3 million or the 2 million one?
No, you said the correct one.
okay.
Yeah, there's another one after
Yeah,
that. You read the correct
I
one.
thought I
though.
might have clicked on the, all right.
All right, so hearing no further questions, we have a motion and a second. Michelle, can you please open the vote?
Voting is open.
The 100,000s are the same, I think.
The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the presentation of the fiscal year 2025 invoices. Joe?
How about that? Motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 invoices in the amount of $2,818,382.47.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the invoices? So Mike, these are since we don't have a July meeting, these are, I guess, let's say pre-funding, catch-up? How do you want to characterize it?
That's correct. What we're asking for is permission for the ones that we know are coming. We pay CLIC every July. We pay our bus leases every July. The big ones we know we'd like your authority on. If there are other ones that come along the way throughout July and August, especially construction ones, we will ask your approval in August for those.
And we'll bypass the conversation on accrual accounting. But this keeps the books cleaner. Yeah,
That's
this
right.
keeps the books
That's
cleaner.
right.
Excellent. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Michelle, can you open the vote?
Voting is open.
Interesting how the 100,000 all lined up.
The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the treasurer's report.
In May, revenues totaled 9.2 million, expenses 8.7. All funds cash balance on May 31 was 17.6 million. Through the end of May, we had 66% of budgeted operating revenues, 87% of operational spending. For comparison, last year that was 67 and 90, so both are trending appropriately. Investments continue to hold steady. The most recent Federal Reserve meeting, we did see rates unchanged once again. Now only one cut expected before the end of the year. So, and I quote PMA here, if the projections hold, it would leave the federal funds rate benchmark at 4.1% by the end of next year. So that is higher than they had said, a year ago. And so that affects how we're budgeting for that investment income this next year. Cash variance was negative. Last month it was positive. I'm not worried about it. 3 property tax distribution dates in May and June. And so we did get a smaller than anticipated May distribution, but now the first in June was larger and offset it. Other non-tax local revenues were higher this month than in previous years. And then looking ahead, we are working with PMA to ladder additional treasury bills. Now that we're entering our cash flow high point, we will lock up funds both until January for bond payments, but then also as long as we can through the spring until next March and April when we hit our low point again. So we're going to try and lock up longer and longer every year. as our cash recovers. After June 30, I will update those cash flow projections, and I will include those in August with the tentative budget.
This is just a typo with the last fiscal year, I assume, on this document, right? It says February 28th. Should that say May 31st, 2023?
Where are you, Joe? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, on paragraph 2 on your memo.
Yes, my apologies.
Oh, no, I figured I just wanted to.
I'm sorry.
No,
My
no, no,
apologies.
no,
Through
don't.
May 31.
Don't.
I think you referenced May 31 when you.
I
were
did.
talking
My
about
apologies.
Did you? Okay. I was.
My apologies.
I
My
saw the
eyes,
same
my
thing.
ears weren't aligning, so my bad.
All right, any additional questions? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report for May 2024 as presented?
So moved.
Can I get We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the joint agreement with District 843 Operations and Maintenance.
This is something that we've done now for several years. District 843 does not have a director of buildings and grounds, so we help support their operations. On here, you can see inspection evaluation of the buildings for mechanical structural issues. We help with bid documents and specs, safety compliance in 843 buildings, and then securing contractors as appropriate. Something that Steve Pretzel, our assistant director, oversees now. We've used our building supervisors in different capacities as well. It'd be our recommendation to approve this agreement as presented. The total cost is $42,000. I believe that's up just a little bit, Mike, for inflation. We hadn't adjusted it in several years, but Sarah Rexroad and their group has been happy with it. It has not been too cumbersome for our guys, as the two buildings, one's right between here and west, and the other's across the street from east. So it's convenient, and 42 is better than them having to pay someone 100,000 plus benefits. So that's been a nice arrangement. I would recommend that we approve the operations and maintenance agreement as presented.
All right, can I entertain a motion to approve the agreement as presented? We have a motion and a second. Any questions for Dr. Tingley? Dana, everything, you guys talked about this at 843, everything's good over there?
Yeah, we don't have any concerns. I think any adjustments to the budget are being made, so if there's anything that comes up, I mean, I don't think that this is a large amount that would be impactful on the total budget, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. All right, hearing none. Michelle, can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. This vote was unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up, we have student activities report for May 2024.
Student activities report is in your backup materials for the month ended May 31st, 2024. The fund balance was $2,298,412, with revenues of $521,817 and expenditures of $884,734. There were three that were in the negative. One is positive by the time we printed this memo. The other two will be here in the next couple of weeks as the funds are deposited for camp or fundraising. I ask you to approve the student activity account as presented.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the student activities report for May 2024 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, Michelle, can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. This vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
Next up is the appointment of district treasurer for fiscal year 2025.
Every year, according to the requirements from the State Board of Education, the board has to appoint a treasurer, as Mike has been the treasurer and chief investment officer for the last 3 years. This will be his fourth starting. Am I right with that math? Yeah. And Yeah, yeah, how about it? Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. So, obviously, Mike's done a good job with this. He would provide monthly financial reports, select the depositories and the investments, establish and maintain a system of internal controls, chief investment officer, and ensure compliance in the fund balance requirements. So I would recommend that we approve Mike as the treasurer and CIO for fiscal year 2025.
All right, I entertain a motion to approve Michael Dubak for the position of school. Rich, please let me finish next time.
8 years and I still haven't gotten my shot at it. Damn.
Yeah, right. I know, I was kind of hoping I could do it, but that's okay, Mike, I'll let you have it. All right, we have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote, Michelle?
Voting is open. The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
Congratulations, Mike.
Congratulations.
All right, next up, we have the second reading for policies.
Including in bracket materials are the updates from press. Really, nothing pressing, so to speak, from press. But I would direct your attention to the last attachment, operational services. We recommend a change in that policy. If you scroll down to the bottom, the standards for managing buildings and grounds. Right now, if anything breaks, falls, a permanent alteration to the buildings or grounds, if the total cost exceeds $12,500, we have to take it to the board prior to doing anything. Well, as Rich can probably attest, $12,500 gets taken up pretty quickly. So we would recommend, and in accordance with new regulations through ISB, that we change that limit to $50,000. Now, we're still gonna come back and tell the board what's going on, but if we have a wall fall or something happens, rather than call an emergency meeting to fix it, we're gonna fix it, and then we would come back. They've changed those parameters. I just wanted to bring it to your attention rather than just include it in a press. Mike, anything to add?
No, as we mentioned last month, it's in compliance with code, but to differentiate this from the bidding threshold. Bidding threshold moved from 25 to 30, but this is for building renovations, and to use Scott's example, if a wall falls down, that's some kind of building need. The bidding threshold is still 30, so when we go out to bid for things, it's gonna be anything over that amount.
So Mike, these are more emergency costs, things that would happen that might be not budgeted for or not expected, but they're things that need to be taken care of immediately, or what kind of projects?
It could be something emergency or something budgeted for,
Okay,
but it would not be necessarily something bid out. It would be some kind of building renovation, building need. Differentiating from going out for buying a pickup truck for the fleet, or,
Tree
something
branch
like that.
falls on a roof, puts a hole in it, we gotta get somebody out to
Correct,
fix it.
that's correct.
That type of thing.
and the $50,000 was the recommendation that school code makes, or?
It's
that's-
actually in school code. Ours was, just has been at
Just hasn't been
12.5
updated, yeah.
for many, many years, and it's just very low.
Thank you.
Any further questions on that? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the updated policies as presented? All right, we have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
Next up, we have the revision to the school calendar for 2024-2025.
So
Full year? Is that what-
No, there's no major changes. What we did was change the coding of early release to school improvement days. In our recent negotiations with the teachers, early release days are defined on those days prior to a vacation or day off, and teachers are able to leave 15 minutes after the students on those early release days. In the past, we've coded these as early release days as well in the calendar, like on these Wednesdays, but just so that there's no confusion amongst our teaching staff, these will now be categorized as half-day school improvement. The student schedule will stay the same, they'll go, but obviously the expectation is the teachers stay for that professional development time, school improvement. Now, there may be the question, why have 2 in September? The reason we were doing the 4th and the 18th, during their advisories, students have an A lunch or a B lunch. The PPS department wanted to do longer presentations, so the A lunches will be in the auditorium the entire time on the 4th, and then the B lunches will be on the 18th, so they can both receive a longer presentation. And then the other days then have remained virtually the same. Just wanted to make sure that that was clear to everybody, that those days the teachers will stay, students will have a half day and be on their way. We will have to, at some point, discuss or revise the student testing in April. As with ACT, that's going to change a little bit. There will not be a science test this year. So it will be 1 day of testing for virtually all students, except for those students who have the extended time. So we're going to work through that. Our plan at this time would be freshmen, sophomores, and juniors would come and test that day. In the past, we would have freshmen and juniors come one day, sophomores and juniors come the next. Now we'll be able to test freshmen, sophomores, juniors all in one, get the seniors out of here. But more to come as we sort through the state of Illinois with the scheduling of the ACT for the upcoming year. So
And-
go ahead.
Graduations, again, are all on the,
We
we've listed them.
placed them on here on a Saturday. We have had some, some suggestions of moving it to a Sunday. We're certainly open to that. If we would move it to a Sunday, we would be moving junior highs somewhere else. This past year, we held junior highs on Sunday and 2 on Monday evening here at Central in the auditorium, or in the field house. That seemed to work. But certainly if we wanted to make Sunday a priority, I can tell you in terms of doing it on the weekend, it is, the feedback from the students was positive. Feedback from many of the families was positive. 3 nights in 1 week. I can tell you the staff enjoys going and doing it one day. But I thought all in all, it was positive. The weather cooperated, a little warm, but the weather cooperated and we were able to get those in. But right now they're scheduled for Saturday, but we can make adjustments. I do know there were several colleges that also had graduations on Sunday. Different colleges within universities do them on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the weekend. So it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
All right. Any further questions on the school calendar? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to revise the school calendar as presented.
Get the laminating machine out.
Right?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Michelle, can you please open the vote?
Voting is open.
What did I do? There it is, okay.
The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the capital projects transfer.
This is an interfund transfer from 20 into Fund 20, our O&M fund, into Fund 60 for capital projects. This was already included within the FY24 budget. From a conservative auditing standpoint, this is simply asking for you to pass a resolution for us to move those monies.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the transfer for capital projects as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the resolution? Mike, this is something we do each year when we do this.
Do this every year.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Hearing no further questions, I would ask Michelle to open the vote.
Voting is open. vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the adoption of the amended fiscal year 2024 budget.
So once again, we would ask that the board approve Resolution 2024-05. The amended budget was placed on for at least 30 days prior to the final action. The public hearing was held on the budget on the 20th day of June 2024. So we would ask that the board approve resolution to adopt the amended budget for the fiscal year 2024.
You know, the only question I have is I just noticed it is in the resolution itself. It says resolve to approve the amended budget on the 20th day of June 2024. We would probably need to change that.
We can change that. We'll change that and get that signature.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So I just caught it here.
Yep,
but
we'd
thanks.
have to have it done any day after the 20th, but yep,
So-
we'll correct that.
Okay. All right, with that, I'd entertain the motion to adopt the fiscal year 2024 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Michelle, you can open the vote.
Voting is open. The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up, under informational items, is the report of the 843 Governing Board.
All right, last month at our governing board meeting, we approved a new administrator for 843. So Sarah Rexroad currently functions as the director for the entire co-op. And in doing so, if there's a principal that is out or someone that needs additional support, she's the only person available as an administrator to function in that capacity. So the discussion was to hire a administrator for the co-op. So this would be an assistant director that would assist with any of those coverage issues or helping with staffing or other issues that Sarah can attend to the entire co-op's responsibility. So Ms. Amy Port Lewis was hired at the last meeting. She'll begin shortly, I think July 1st, to help with that management of the co-op overall and help with any student issues or parent issues that arise that are separate from the responsibilities for the director. There's also a new principal, Emily Lightshow, who is taking the place of Larry Punicki, who is currently the Pioneer Grove principal. So she'll be serving in that capacity because of the change in the salaries based on what Mr. Punicki was getting and the addition of the new administrator. That's kind of a wash because of the levels of the individuals that are being hired. So nothing major changing budget-wise, but a definite addition to the team and someone that's great to have on board, and she's got a lot of great experience in special education.
Thank you. FOIA requests,
None.
buildings and ground report?
Included in your backup materials for your review.
Any questions from anybody on the buildings and ground report? I know Chuck's not here.
Do the best.
All right, legislative report?
Legislative report, the governor has signed the budget, and as Mike indicated, we'll kind of see what happens there. There was some legislation that could potentially impact us. There legislation signed to allow districts to levy for life safety outside of going to referendum. We really don't have the specifics on that right now. We'll be meeting with PMA July 11th. I've spoken with our architects. As you know, that's, life safety is a large bucket, and it's, we have most of our stuff about 10 years out right now. So we're gonna take a look at our plan and see what makes sense, and we'll come back and have discussions with the board. I would not recommend adding on any debt at this time, obviously, as we've talked, or at least I've talked at length about the $27 million a year is a lot. I would do anything to have that less. If we were able to spend that on educating students, we'd have the same spending capacity of many of our neighbors to the north. But at some point, that will all be paid for. But we will look and see what that means for us. But that was really the primary change in any legislation.
All right. Anything under the superintendent's district report?
District report, we're doing well in hiring. I think we have one teaching position left to fill at this time. We will repost that job on July 1 and give it one more shot. We know we'll be able to find a teacher, but we're in a pretty good place. But with 440-some teachers, things always happen. So we always have that late July scramble, but we're doing what we can to anticipate that. But we're in a pretty good place for staffing. Summer school has been held here at Lincoln Way Central. It's gone very well. Students very well behaved. Teachers doing a really nice job. Transportation has been on it. So it's really been a successful, and I guess we're halfway through summer school at this time, and things have gone really, really well.
Scott, what is the one position?
Special education right now. Yeah, we we'll fill it and then we'll lose one, and then we'll fill it and then we'll lose one. We have had some teachers leave for some director positions and more responsibilities, which is always good. You like to see that. And then we've also had some internal movement amongst our staff as well.
All right, any other district business?
No, nothing at this time.
Any correspondence?
No.
All right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees.
So moved.
Second.
Your motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, we are in closed session, and there will be action after.
We're good? Okay.
We're ready to go. All right, we are back in open session. And with that, I would entertain a motion that Dr. Tingley has met all performance goals and approve an employment agreement with Dr. Tingley for the period of 2024 through 2028 as discussed and presented in closed session.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Michelle, can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. The vote is unanimous, motion passes.
Thank you, Dr. Tingley. So look forward to working with you the next 4 years, or 2 years, maybe, year and a half, depending on, yeah, who's here.
4 for me.
Yeah, 4 for you, 4 for you. Yeah. All right, any other business for the board to discuss tonight? All right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned, and our next meeting is August 8th, 2024. Rich, August 8th, 2024. Michelle, please send out the Outlook invoice. Yeah,
I will do that.
all right.
7 and not 5, right?
Yes, 7, not 5. All right, take care, everyone.